All righty. Welcome to another edition of What's Good with John and Joyce. And my associate Joyce is on vacation right now. She's on assignment, I believe, in Rome. She says she's going to bring back some cheese at some point, I guess, I'd like to say a big thank you to all of our sponsors. Woodwinds Wedding and Special Events Venue and Silvio Sauces, thewoodwinds.com. Ascend Bank. They don't just see your accounts, they see your vision and ambitions. Ascend.bank. Moonshots, a vegan-based company that delivers the highest quality organic juices, coffee, bowls, and so much more. DrinkMoonshots.com. And To Your Health, nutrition and health coaching, creating a lifestyle tailored just for you. ToYourHealth360.com. We're deeply grateful to all of our sponsors for their support and for partnering with us to uplift and enrich the lives of our listeners and viewers. But I'm here solo, and I've got a dear friend of mine. I've known this gentleman forever. I love his family. They're great people. They're great entrepreneurs, and they're also sponsors of our podcast, Moonshots. And Moonshots is in Guilford. They have a new location in Branford, opening up March 3rd. And with me in studio now is a gentleman who has quite a career. He also played in the NFL with the Seattle Seahawks, who are Super Bowl champions right now, and also the Denver Broncos, the Philadelphia Eagles, and just an amazing guy, Connecticut born and raised. And I just want to welcome John Moffitt to the show. Hey, John.
Hey, John. Thanks for having me.
So good to see you, man.
Good to see you.
I love the T-shirt you brought in here today.
Oh, yeah.
Moonshots. There it is. Got a location over in Guilford and Branford. But before we get to that, I want to learn a bit about you because your story is just so inspirational.
Yeah.
A guy was an all-state football player over at Notre Dame. You have a great family, great upbringing, and you get to the pinnacle, you get to the NFL, and then kind of things kind of happened.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, tell us a little bit about you. Somebody's tuning in for the first time, they've heard the name, or maybe they haven't. What should we know about you?
Yeah. So, obviously, and it's crazy how things, time flies, but it feels like it's like a past life, So in my past life, football was my career, and my profession, and I'm out of Guilford and played and kind of made it leveled up every single kind of step of the way, and went to the University of Wisconsin on a full scholarship.
The Badgers,
yeah, that's right,
yep.
yeah, go Badgers. I don't know what's going on.
Did Russell Wilson go there too?
Russell Wilson went there. J.J. Watt went there. There were some other really great linemen to come out of there. I had a great team when we were playing. We went to the Rose Bowl. Won a Big Ten championship. I was an All-American my senior year and captain of the team. And then I got drafted in the third round by the Seattle Seahawks, and started playing, played 3 years, was 2 with the Seahawks, was 1 with the Broncos. And that's when I retired, at 27.
Right.
And then I came back a little bit after, cause I was like, oh, do I really, I don't know. I have such a love-hate with football.
Right. Now, why do you say that? What is it? What's the love-hate mean?
I love it and I hate it.
Really?
I love it because it made me who I am, and I hate it because it's football, man. And it's so, and as you go up, the game changes. Every level, the game changes, not on the field. On the field, it changes too, but just the whole game, the way that you approach it, the pressures, the outside world, just a lot. It's a lot, and when you're 23 or 24 and you really don't have a ton of life experience anyways, it can be sometimes a recipe, recipe for disaster.
Yeah, tell me about that too, because you were at the pinnacle,
Yeah.
You talked to John Schneider out there at Seattle. You told me he phoned you and said, well, you like the Northwest, you like Seattle, and you said, yeah, and hung up the phone, and bam, you ended up going to Seattle, right? You're there.
And that's not, that's how it was. I mean, when I got traded, it was originally to the Browns, and they, we had disagreements on contracts, and they failed me on a physical and dirty stuff, and I'm in the parking lot, literally walking out, and John Elway calls me and was like, you want to come to Denver? And I was like,
really?
Yep. Yeah. And I just got on a plane and went to Denver, but it was, for me, what I think, if we're going to talk about, okay, you're going, I was a starter my rookie year, blew my knee out, and then kind of came back and started like another 8 to 10 games the next 2 years.
Right.
If you're really looking at it, it's like, to me, it was part NFL and then it was part personal, right? So you're living the lifestyle you know, and I'm a person that like, I have addiction problems, you know, I have problems with, you know,
I think we all do.
you know, yeah, but I definitely had substance problems. You know what I'm saying? Like there's no secret about that. And something that I battled. And early on in your career, it's boys will be boys and we're having fun. You know what I mean? But I think as I went on, it just kind of got exacerbated. You know what I mean? And the intensity of football matching the intensity of that.
Well, you're at such a high level. So everything you do is magnified, good or bad.
Everything's magnified. And then I had my issues with the NFL. You know what I mean? I didn't, you know, nothing's ever what we think it is. You know, when you're getting, you know, you got a $3 million contract and you've got more money in the bank than you know what to do with, and you're 24 years old, the world looks different. Temptations. Everywhere. And with the NFL too, the you know, to me, I did it and I was like, and I probably should have expected it, but I'm like, this is like a dirty business. Like this is like, I don't know if I like this business, you know? And then at the same time, when the CTE thing came out, which nowadays,
CTE?
Yeah.
The concussion?
Yeah. Chronic traumatic encephalopathy. Yeah. You know, when that info came out, like nowadays you look back and you're like, well, yeah, duh, hitting your head and getting a lot of concussions is going to have consequences, right?
Absolutely.
But back then the culture was, oh, you got dinged up, brush it off, you're fine. Right. Everyone got dinged up, it's fine.
How many times do the athletes come out because they're being paid such large amount of money, almost like they're drugged up to go back out in the field again?
Yeah.
Quite blunt.
Yeah. Well, below the neck, so they always, to an extent, took concussion seriously, though, in terms of like, you got a concussion, we have to treat that. You know what I mean? Sometimes they didn't. I mean, you just saw Tua Tagovailoa, whatever his name is. You just saw his situation a couple of years ago, and that was crazy.
Yes, it was.
But at the same time, I you know, the thing that was shocking was this degenerative brain disease that was related to concussions. You know what I mean? And then B, it being a part of football.
Look at Junior Seau. What went on with that gentleman?
Look at Aaron Hernandez.
Exactly.
I mean, look at, you know, I mean, a lot of guys and
a whole bunch.
Yeah. And so that was like, so now you take that news on top of me, you know, drinking too much, smoking too much marijuana, and really not like totally there, but still playing at a high level. And I'm like putting it together, and then just like relationships, not the right people in my life, not the right people around me, right? Not a support system. And it kind of all tied up to me being like, you know what? I'm walking away from the game, you know? And, you know, I love radio. I do this. So, you know, I did an interview after, and I kind of just voiced more of cause in that point I hadn't gotten caught for being like a drug addict. Right. So like in that point, you know, I'm just talking about football, and that interview made like national headlines. And then all of a sudden,
did your family know about all this stuff, or was this kind of secret?
No, they definitely knew I had problems. Yeah, okay. They definitely knew I was. It was hard. It's hard to gauge. It was hard to gauge because I'm like I was like a functional. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't laying around. I wasn't drinking every night. It was just
you're able to mask everything.
You can mask and you can manage. I'm sure a lot of people in the regular world today have issues and they still do their job. Right. They still go to work, and that's hard to spot.
Yeah.
Also, I'm a grown man, you know, like I'm on my own, like, and I have the money to be on my own, you know? So I think it was, you know, there's only so much control you have over somebody. And really, you know, you hope that it's more just like they listen to your advice.
Right.
And so at that point it became like, everyone jumped on this story. I mean, I did a piece for the New York Times. I was getting calls from like ABC, NBC, CBS, ESPN, HBO. Like everybody was like, this is a story, because it was kind of just the timing.
Yes.
Like he quit the NFL because of CTE, and CTE stuff just came out. Wow. And they were just wrapping up the NFL lawsuit for CTE. Right. So in my mind, I was like, okay, what's my next career going to be? Right. Well, why don't I do radio? Why don't I go into media? I'll do radio. So I started doing like some radio interviews, and I started hosting some shows, and
you did some things on ESPN too, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Also in Seattle on their radio.
I was on Jim Rome's show. I did a lot. And then when I was playing too, though, I always did radio.
Yeah.
Cause I just love it. Like we talk about, like,
Well,
It's just,
you
it's
got that great personality. You're outgoing. You have a comedic sense about you as well.
I just don't have the voice like you.
Oh, sure you do.
I got a nasally like throat voice. Like I got like
you communicate very well.
Well, I appreciate that, but you got the radio voice. I love it. You know what I mean? When I listen to you and I hear your voice, and I still have an ear for that.
Right.
I'm like, oh, that's a radio voice. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna parlay this media attention into a career in radio, and it actually did work. I had like a bunch of radio offers and stuff like that. But my personal life was, spinning out of control.
Shambles.
Yeah. And my personal relationships were bad. Not with my family.
Now, did you have any mentors at all? People that you were able to kind of latch onto, maybe get some advice, people that had been through that before?
Yeah. I mean, I did have mentors, but again, I wasn't listening to anybody. You know what I mean? Like I didn't want.
You were in a different place.
Yeah. I had a lot of people out in Seattle. I didn't have the same support like I had at Wisconsin, where like my real mentors were guys that like a Tarek Salo who played at Notre Dame too and was a Connecticut guy and close friend, like an older brother. He was in Wisconsin, or Derek Engler who played at Wisconsin. Like these guys were all at Wisconsin, and they were telling me clearly, but you're not listening.
Well, they say when the student is ready, the teacher will arrive.
Exactly. Yeah. And it was something I had to go through. I thank God it all happened, and basically the pinnacle of it was I was arrested in Chicago and, had drugs and everything. And, the story's not what they say online, but at the same time, like you put yourself in that position. And
so you were misrepresented at some points.
Yeah. But who cares? You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, it's like, okay, like the bad things I had things I shouldn't have had on me and I got caught,
right.
But
you accept accountability. You're the type of guy that accepts accountability.
This situation scared me. You know what I mean? Because like I was facing like felonies, and they locked me up in Chicago County Jail. Which
so you were
like,
incarcerated?
Incarcerated being like
okay. So locked up and incarcerated is totally different.
Yeah.
Okay, so but you were locked up.
I was locked up. I wasn't incarcerated. So I was put in jail because when they originally arrest you and process you, you go to jail. Wow. And I was in like Chicago County Jail or whatever.
Got the mugshot and all that?
Oh yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Oh,
should have brought that with you.
No, it's bad. Well, I'm bleeding. I'm like, I got punched in the face. The story's crazy to me because they claim like I hit somebody and I was trying to deal drugs. Like if we wanted to just veer into it real quick, what really happened was I was just offering drugs to other guys that were in the NFL that happened to be at the club that they didn't take, right? And the bouncer saw it, and the bouncer took me in the back and hit me.
Oh, geez.
And I got a bloody, you can see on the thing, my lip's bleeding. I split my lip. I had to get like 4 stitches in my lip. And so I'm like, always like, even when we went to court for it, like the bouncer claimed like assault because his fist got cut. And I'm like, how? Like, did I bite him?
God, you can't make this thing up.
No.
It'd be a great movie.
Yeah. It's so anyways, and I'm laughing now because,
What do they say? Time plus tragedy equals humor.
Yeah. I'm laughing now because, I did learn my lesson, and that scared me. And, I went to rehab and I kind of straightened my life up, but that was a process too, to be perfectly honest, but it got me on the track.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you really have to be honest with yourself. You have to really understand what your deal is, man. And like, really, it's funny when I had my daughter, I started to really click with it, but like,
what's your daughter's name?
Brooke.
Brooke.
Yeah. She's almost 3. Greatest thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah.
Like greatest thing. I mean, changes you. And, but I like really realized like, dude, like you can't drink anything at all ever, because you try to do a moderation thing, or you try to, even when you're cleaning your life up and you're like, yeah, I'm not doing like hard drugs, right? I'm not doing this, but maybe I'll do this, or maybe I can have a beer. Yeah. And it's this whole process, and your friend groups.
We're kind of negotiating with ourselves.
Yeah. And it's a thing where you got to get to a level. And I saw my dad do this, and it clicks now more for me that I've done this is like, if people can't hang out with you because you're not drinking,
right, then
that's what it is, and it's so much, there was that rooted in it, and wanting acceptance, wanting people to like you,
right,
wanting to get to be around
for all the
people.
wrong reasons.
Right. And if you think of the root of that, that's really not healthy anyways.
No.
Like you shouldn't live like that. So
I remember this being the same way in high school. I never drank. I never did drugs. I never smoked.
it's awesome.
I did my own thing.
It's awesome.
Because I was always put in a position of authority.
Yeah.
Like you, being the captain of the football team and wrestling and baseball and track and all that stuff. And plus, I knew my dad would kick the you-know-what out of me.
Yeah.
I had that fear in my mind, too.
See that?
But I also admire people that went off the rails, too, and were able to come back and get their life together like you.
Yeah.
Because Lord knows we all have our issues.
Yeah.
Every one of us. Everybody watching right now, we all have challenges.
Yeah. See, I admire people like you. I admire people that have never drank or and say, whether it's a disease or not, I don't know. I don't, and I don't judge anybody. I know AA says like you're always an addict. I know there's other people that.
Yeah, but that's not your identity.
It's not your identity.
But it's not your identity.
It's not your identity. And then there's other approaches called positive approach where it's like once it's out of your body, you're not an addict and you just need to make the decision every time. And you need to sort it out with yourself and just accept it, and that was a process. But when that happened, it was like the best thing that I think one of the better things that could have happened to me because it slowed me down.
Yeah.
It slowed me down. I lost all the radio offers. I lost any opportunities.
Well, you can fill in for me when I go on vacation.
Well, I appreciate
all right, over at iHeart.
That. Thank you. Thank you. But it was good. It was good because it made me really like, you got to like hit rock bottom. You have to have nothing. And then you have to start looking around your life and being like, okay, what do I want to do and what works and what makes sense and what's real?
But isn't that where you grow in the valley?
100%.
Well, I always believe that obstacles are opportunities. I really do.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you just really think you can't get any lower, you bounce back up. You find a way to crawl back up.
Absolutely.
You did that. Look what you've become. A heck of an entrepreneur.
Well, I'm thankful and I do feel blessed. And I feel lucky a lot too. I really do. I feel
you have a deep faith?
I do.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And in Jesus Christ.
Yes.
I don't like to be obscure about that.
Yeah,
I don't like to be like,
I'm proud of that.
Yeah, me too. And people need to know that and hear that because I think people like, I don't like agnosticism. You know what I mean? I don't like, there's a God. Like, it's like, no, man, there's a personal God. There's a personal God that knows you personally, that loves you personally, and you can have a personal relationship with him. To me, that's like the greatest sales pitch in the world, right? Like no other God, little g, is going to come and dwell within you and make his home within you. And by doing that, give you eternal life, give you eternal peace, give you everything. It's just such a sweet deal.
Isn't it kind of like freeing to know that you've been forgiven?
100%. That took a long time for me to accept. I had a deep fear for a long, long time, and even into my adult life, of going to hell because I didn't know if I really believed, even though I was afraid of going to hell from that God. Yeah. Think of the logic. Yeah. I'm like, I'm afraid Jesus and God are going to say, you didn't really believe in your heart.
Right.
You're going to go to hell. And I had that fear for the longest time. I was like, do I believe? Do I really believe? With the fear present.
Sure.
And finally, what opened that up to me, and this was like not too long ago, was like the idea of like once saved, always saved. Are you familiar with that?
Yes, I am.
I'm a big believer in that.
Yeah.
And that's the idea that like you just have to believe once, ticket stamped. You could believe one time and then go right back to being a total heathen, godless pagan, and you're still saved.
Right.
And to me, that speaks volumes to our Lord.
And that is mercy.
Right?
That is absolute mercy.
100%. And it makes sense.
Yeah.
For the whole deal, it makes sense.
Now tell us about where you are. I mean, you were like, at the high in the NFL.
Yeah.
And you were kind of low with the substance abuse.
Yeah.
And where are you today, John?
Yeah, yeah.
John in 2026, talk about John Moffitt now.
Yeah. So, and I will say one thing about the thing about being in the low place that I found to be the toughest was when your story's so public.
And you don't have friends in low places there, right?
You don't.
Many times.
And you don't. And then, it's almost like feedback loop. Like when your story's so public, everyone's there when you're winning. Everyone's there to shake your hand. But when you're losing and when you're down.
You're like down in the abyss.
And it's hard to just face people. You got to face people. And I'm like, oh no, like.
Did you find people judging you or people that you thought were friends who all of a sudden kind of turned away?
I definitely lost a lot of friends. I definitely, and maybe that was part of me too, just saying like, this isn't real, but I hate being pitied. I hate that. Yeah. I hate being pitied. Like, even if I'm in a ditch, like, don't feel bad for me. Like to me, it's like, it's the most like, it's like the least empowering feeling in the world.
Right.
And that was like a long time of that I kind of had to go through that because everyone knew my success story. And no matter what I did after, it's like, oh yeah, you're working at, poolscape. Like you're digging ditches and doing pools, you know, and I had to like, it taught me humility.
Right.
And I also had to like look at it like a person without so much pride.
Yeah.
Just like, well, this is a job and this is where you're at in life and do your best.
And to me, I've always looked at people, if they're a CEO of a company or if they're digging ditches, they're still equally as important.
They're a human being.
They are absolutely right.
Exactly.
And we need everybody, no matter what they may do. And
no question.
so if somebody looks down at you, that's on them, not you.
I totally agree. And it took time to learn that. And then, you know, over time, the cool thing is I'm lucky that I have like the greatest family in the world. And, you know, my mom,
I can attest for that.
Yeah, it's really, they really are better than me. Like, really, I mean, like, I feel like I got like given
you hit the lottery, right?
Yeah, 100%. And, you know, one night my mom was like, I was doing the pool thing and I was like, you know, I don't know. And she's like, why don't we do like, cause she had been watching these girls in Ohio that started a juice company. And my mom's done juicing for like years and like all that stuff. And she's like, it's funny because we all love to eat bad food, but then we try to like fix it by eating the healthiest food.
Sure.
So we have this like huge knowledge.
It's like somebody that goes to a fast food, they buy, you know, the most, you know, horrible food. And
yeah.
I'll get a Diet Pepsi with
you.
Yeah.
It's
not realizing the Diet Pepsi is worse than a regular Pepsi.
Dude, well, exactly. Yeah, it's so true.
Yeah.
But we do these like pendulum things. And then from my past with training and stuff like that, like my mom always wanted to give me the best food. And then, but we'd like all like, you know, oh, we're going to eat pizza. We're going to eat pizza. We're going to eat pizza.
Right,
okay, let's get healthy. We're going to eat this. And here's a superfood. And this
cauliflower crust.
Yeah. And we start like playing these games and she saw these girls in Ohio doing a juice truck and she's like, why don't we do that? And I was like, yes, absolutely. And that was in 2018. And then we just started going on it. We didn't launch the truck till 2020. We got our first location in 2023. And now we're doing our second location in Branford, and we'll be open March 3rd.
March 3rd. Wow.
Yeah.
I've been there, and I brought so many people as guests.
I know.
Your location in Guilford. And normally I have to have a little bit of almond milk or something in my coffee, but your drip drop coffee is so good that I can drink it black.
Yeah.
Which is like, for me, that's a revelation.
Yeah. And like I was telling you, you know, we picked great roasters and really I treat it like the NFL. Almost on all, like the way I run the team. Like we're a team, the employees and everything like that.
Your employees are the best. They are
they're
top notch, so friendly, so welcoming.
I'm so lucky. And that's the people, number one.
Yes.
The people you got are number one. And
it's got to be an experience when people come in. So they tell other people.
Exactly.
Right.
And also remembering too that like, I'm here to serve you.
Right.
And the old adage, like it's, you know, it's cliche, but customer's always right, but they are always right.
I also love when I go in there. You're there a lot. Your mom there a lot. We see your sister Keely.
Yeah.
Now and then, who's an outstanding photographer. By the way,
you know? She is. Thank you.
But just a very, very talented family. But so people, there's coffee shops on every corner.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think makes yours really stand out at Moonshots?
You know, I'd say to just reiterate the people, and then I would say number two is I strain to use the best ingredients and I keep kind of combing through everything to find the best thing. You know, we're doing like the free range organic eggs, you know, organic avocado, organic strawberries, blueberries, like the almond milk is pressed, you know, in our kitchen. And
to be quite blunt, you might pay a little bit more.
Yeah.
But to me, it's pay now or pay later. I'd rather put the best stuff in my body.
Yeah. You know what though? And I'm just going to say this as a business owner and like, it's my company and like, I'm going to plug, like, I don't think we're more expensive than everybody else. Like I look at other menus. I just think our stuff and not to toot our own horn, but honestly to toot our own horn.
Yeah.
I think our place is so nice and our staff is so nice and the food is so good that it feels like psychologically you're paying more. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It feels like it's I'm paying more. This is an expensive place, but I look at other people's menus and the only thing I'll bear with you is on like, our coffee's more expensive. Right. It's 100%.
Yeah, but it's worth it.
It's worth it. Like our lattes are incredible. Yeah. I go get the milk from the farm in Preston.
Yeah.
It's cream line whole milk, fresh milk. Like it's like days old when I get it. It's like 1 day old. But across the board with our other stuff, like I really do think we beat other people's prices. I think it's just the image of us like kind of conveys like expensive.
Right.
But when you really look at it, I don't think it is. And I think what you're getting, the value's there.
Oh, without question. No doubt about it. And you're growing and growing and growing. And I just, you know, I'm really impressed. And I'm so honored and privileged that you and your family are sponsors of our podcast, you know, What's Good with John and Joyce.
Yeah. Well, I'm a radio guy. I love you. And also this is local. This is grassroots local, which I'm all about. And you know, when you win locally, I mean, what else is there?
I agree. And even though the podcast is national and is going, global right now.
Oh God, you're selling out, John. You're going global.
The principles that you're sharing with the audience right now is something that goes beyond local. But we're so glad to have our local sponsors like you. And I'm so glad with your story, how you've come from the top to the bottom and back up to where you are right now, just showing that, you give people hope. People kind of cheer for the underdog, too.
Yeah.
They see them get to the top and they fall and they come back. And you've done so many great things in the community.
I hope so. I would love that. And, it was like we were talking about when I look back on things. And, I remember when we were first going on the truck and my dad was there and, my dad passed away. And I think back about, he was the best. And I think back on those times, which back then felt like hard, bad times because I really wasn't going where I wanted to go fully.
Yeah.
And now I look back and I'm like, I cherish those times the most. So I would hope, to add on to what you're saying about giving people hope, I would hope that they realize that, you can change and you can make a great story and you'll look back on these times and you'll appreciate them.
Amen. Every day is a gift.
Absolutely.
You're a gift to the community and so is Moonshots, John.
Thank you.
So give my best to your mom. Give my best to your sister.
Absolutely.
Continued success. Great luck with the new location. What's Good with John and Joyce, available on all streaming platforms. Subscribe today, especially on YouTube. Share it with everybody you know. There is good news out there. No negativity, no politics. 30 minutes every week. I'm John Cadillac Seville from iHeartRadio. And John, thank you so much.
Thank you, John.
Appreciate you.
Hey, I heard you got engaged. Congratulations. Now it's time to book the DJ. And that's where we come in. I'm John Cadillac Seville with John Seville Entertainment, Wedding Wire, and the Knot 2026 Couples Choice Awards winner. You can call me directly if you'd like at 203-988-0658. We'll set up your free consultation. Or go to johncaddyman.com. That's 203-988-0658 or johncaddyman.com. We offer excellence, peace of mind, and a great time for all. John Seville Entertainment, a name you know and can trust.